Assalamu alaikum. I think we can start, if we settle down a bit, we can start. I understand that your midterm is not far away, only a couple of days from now. So today's presentation, the research session is very important. Many of the questions you will get from today's one. Today's important information is included in your midterm. So before I start on the extra-embryonic tissue, which means outside the embryo, obviously we are thinking about the hypoblast right now. I would like to make sure that the two concepts are absolutely clear. One, that folding of the embryo, which I completed last time, the last week, but you did not understand so much, so I want to make sure that it is absolutely clear. And therefore, I sent a couple of photographs to you in the evening. Some of you have opened it, some of you did not. That's fine. I'll go into that in detail. And the second part is expected date of delivery, EDD. These two concepts are outside my presentation today. These two are just for your understanding. Is important, but very much away from my theme today. The first one, this is a diagram. You should be all clear by now. Let me orient you a little bit. This is the neural tube, which is almost formed. So if I see that what is the age of the embryo, it would be approximately end of third week, not the beginning, because the neural tube is already there. The notochord is there. This is the paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, and the lateral mesoderm has two parts. The outer one is somatic mesoderm, and the inner part is called the splanchnic mesoderm. And then the yellow color is your endoderm. So three layers are there. If you are still struggling, I request all of you to contact one student over here. And her name is Jana, J-A-N-A, Jana. Jana, if you are here, can you stand up, please? Give a big hand to her. She has an excellent knowledge of the initial part of the development embryogenesis. So don't hesitate to go to her. She'll be more than happy to help you. The initial part, which many of you are struggling right now. At any rate, let me orient you one more time. So what we are looking at is the epiblast is now forming three layers, and the outer one is now changing it to, we call ectoderm now. No more epiblast, ectoderm, the cells which are remaining over there, and that form the skin, the neural tube and neural crest, not shown over here. And then you have the mesoderm that includes the notochord and the paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, lateral mesoderm, which is divided into two parts, somatic and splanchnic. And then you have the endoderm. Now the whole thing will be folding. Remember, it will have to fold. So we all look like tube. And how does it look like? So my diagram, and it's the same thing. If you see the previous one, and this one no different, but here I added the neural crest. So neural tube, the skin, and then the notochord is there, paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, and the lateral mesoderm, which has the two parts over here, which is called the somatic and the splanchnic and the endoderm. But it's folding now. Now let us fold a little bit more. This is from the book. This is from the book. It's folding. So what is important over here, that when it is folding, it creates a little space over here we call coelom. Coelom means cavity. So this is intra-embryonic coelom. Intra-embryonic coelom. We have a cavity in the abdomen, we have a cavity in the thorax. To simplify this diagram, I made this diagram, which is easy for you to understand now. This diagram, I would call it as the $1 million diagram. $1 million diagram. Isn't it good? $1 million diagram. It is. I'll just orient you a little bit. What I did, I just attached the splanchnic mesoderm with the splanchnic mesoderm on the other side, and the somatic mesoderm of this side, right side with the left side. And then creating a little space over here we call intra-embryonic coelom. Now, when I am folding the embryo, obviously the endoderm now is becoming a tube. That tube is a GI tract. Outside the GI tract, outside the epithelium of the GI tract, you have something called the smooth muscle. So if I ask you, the smooth muscle is coming from where? It's coming from this splanchnic mesoderm, splanchnic lateral mesoderm. Is needed for the periostetic movement. Let's go back again. You had this diagram. Now just do by yourself. You have to draw by yourself at home. What you have to do is just round it up now because it's folding. So now the endoderm is becoming a tube now. And that tube is the epithelium of the GI tract. But if it is a stomach, it has some muscle. That muscle coming from where? It's coming from the splanchnic mesoderm. So this is forming the splanchnic mesoderm. Is that clear? And then the somatic mesoderm is also attaching. Somatic means, the anterior abdominal wall, skeletal muscle. So anterior abdominal wall. Between the anterior abdominal wall and the stomach, for example, you have a little space. That space is called intraembryonic coelom. It's very important for you to recognize this space. This is the abdominal cavity or the coelom. This is intraembryonic. Very soon, I'm going to tell you extraembryonic coelom. Coelom means cavity. Coming back to that story when I told you that you just had the lunch and then you took the chicken or sandwich or whatever you have eaten, I don't know, but you are not feeling any kind of sensation in the stomach right now. The reason is that it is covered by the smooth muscle, which is not somatic muscle. Somatic gets the sensation. The smooth muscle will not give you sensation, right? Because it is innervated by the autonomic nerve. This is innervated by the somatic nerve. But you need a little cavity because somebody must have taken 6 sandwich. So you need a little space. Those who took 1 maybe is okay. Those who took 6 sandwiches right now, they need a little space over here to expand. And you don't get a sensation. You are okay. 6 sandwich, no problem. Maafi mushkila. The reason is you have little space over here to expand it. Got it? You need the coelom. But if this one is touching over here, then you get pain. Don't exceed more than 6 sandwiches at a time. That's the moral of the story. But anyway, so coelom, you understand what is a coelom? You have a coelom. We need it for expansion of the GI tract. Is that okay? And GI tract is surrounded by smooth muscle, which is coming from this one, which is called the lateral splanchnic mesoderm. Period. Is that okay? Very good. Now I give you another important one before I come to the objective for today. Expected date of delivery. It is an estimated due date or expected date of delivery is the date that spontaneous onset of labor is expected when the baby is coming out. The due date may be estimated by adding 280 days or 9 months and 7 days to the first day of last menstrual period, LMP. Very important that we ask in the exam that a lady came to your clinic and say, let's do it this way. Say, for example, a lady who knows very well that my menstrual cycle is such that the onset of my menstrual cycle is always the first day of a month. So this lady came to your clinic and said that, my last menstrual period was 1st of September. And 1st of October, I did not get any menstrual period. So the doctor will calculate right away if she's pregnant. Obviously, you have to do the HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, the test. You have to do it in the blood and the urine, and you say, congratulations, you are pregnant. But when is the baby coming out? It's called the expected date of delivery. You just add 9 months and 7 days. So if it is a September 1, then October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, and then add 7 days. Is the first, then it will be 8th of June, the baby will be coming out. Is that okay? Very simple. But last menstrual cycle, remember it was last bleeding, not the stoppage. Her menstrual cycle stopped 1st of October. Don't count that. Go to the back when she had the bleeding. Normal cycle, I'm talking about. Okay? Thus, if a woman visits the clinic on November 10 and is confirmed that she is pregnant, that HCG level is positive, should be asked to let the physician know about the first date of last menstruation. If it was October 1, now I have changed it to October 1 rather than September 1. Her expected due delivery would be July 8, 2021. Is clear now? All of you should say yes. Wonderful. Let's start now. So now concentrate on the extra embryonic tissue. Stay away from the embryo now. We are not talking about the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. We are not talking anymore for this lecture. We are talking outside what is happening. Outside the embryo, there are many things happening, and that is triggered by the movement of the hypoblast. Let's see that. Now, this is from the book. A little bit complicated for you student, but it's known to you. What you see over here is the trophoblast. There are 2 layers of the trophoblast, cytotrophoblast, syncytial trophoblast, and there are 2 layers of the embryonic tissue, which we will not going into that detail. We are thinking about this one and how the hypoblast is behaving. Some students like this diagram, but some students like this diagram. Very simplified diagram is showing you that what is happening during the 2nd week and what is happening outside the embryo. When we talk about the embryo, we talk about this. Today I'm going to talk about outside, like this area, not this area. This is the epiblast, will form the ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, and the story is unfolding. That's enough for this story that you need for the midterm. But you need to have some story what's going on outside the embryo, which is the hypoblast. Okay? And this area is needed because to embedding into the endometrium of the uterus. Otherwise, it will fall down. We call trophoblast. There are 2 kinds of trophoblast over here. You can see that one is cytotrophoblast. You know it already. I expect that you know it already. And another one is the syncytial trophoblast, where the cell walls are not maintaining very well. That releases a hormone called HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, and that is responsible for the pregnancy test. A lady is pregnant, and how do you know that? Because the HCG level will be high, it will be positive, and not too much high, but it is a normal range. But what I'm saying is it will be positive. Normally, there should not be any HCG. But if a lady has an HCG positive, then we call the lady is pregnant. And it is coming from where? Syncytial trophoblast. Make sure that you understand it. Not cytotrophoblast, but syncytial trophoblast. Is that okay? The outer layer. Why these layers are important? Because they will go inside the endometrium. Otherwise, the whole blastocyst will fall down. You need to embed. If you put something in the middle of this room, it will fall down. But if you hook it up on the top, like you can see this audio system or the visual system we have, it's not falling down because anchored over there is going over there. It's not falling down. So that's exactly it is happening. We call the trophoblast. Is that okay? Very good. Now, too much of HCG is also a problematic. That means the too much of syncytial trophoblast. We have a problem we call high beatity from Moore. Have you heard the name? Nobody has heard the name because it was supposed to be done in the 2nd week. But I'm telling right now, if it is too much of the HCG level is there, we have a situation called hydatid form mode, then the baby will die because it's all occupied by the syncytial trophoblast. There is no other tissue. Everything is syncytial trophoblast. No embryonic tissue. And how do you know that? It's too much of HCG is a problematic. Too much of HCG is a problem. Tell me another situation where the HCG level is too little and also problematic. Tell me a situation where the HCG level could be very small. Yeah? Ectopic pregnancy, you said? Say yes. You said ectopic pregnancy. Now, it's not a rocket science I ask. I ask you where the HCG level will be low, because where the endometrium is not there. It is not increasing in size, and that is present in the fallopian tube. If the pregnancy is happening inside the fallopian tube, then the trophoblast will be less, because if there is not much muscle over there, it cannot go too much. Fallopian tube is a narrow tube. The pregnancy can happen over there. It's a problematic. So the HCG level will be very small over there, and that is called ectopic pregnancy. Pregnancy normally happens in the endometrium of the uterus. Everybody knows that. Pregnancy is in the uterus. But if the pregnancy is happening in the fallopian tube, it's called ectopic, means outside. That means it is not a normal pregnancy. The HCG level will be down. But I'm giving you another scenario where the HCG level will be too much. HCG level will be too much if it is the hydatid form mode, hydatid form mode. I hope I have written somewhere. I can't remember, but you can check your book. Hydatid form mode, where the syncytial trophoblast is too much, leading to too much of HCG level in the plasma and in the urine. Both are problematic. A lady comes to your clinic and you measure the HCG level, you say, congratulations, go home. That lady can come back with more problem if you cannot diagnose that HCG level is low. Ectopic pregnancy, because the pregnancy in the fallopian tube is an acute situation. It is an emergency, because the fallopian tube will burst and the patient will die. You said congratulations, but the patient will die if you are not careful. So too much of HCG, too little HCG is a problematic. So there is a range where you can say congratulations. Don't say anything HCG positive, congratulations. No, you will have passed a student. I'll pass a doctor. Is that okay? Let's do that now. What you have to concentrate now on this layer, the bottom layer, the other layer is the epiblast, this is the hypoblast. Can you see the hypoblast layer over here? Just concentrate on that. This will be going out. Remember the last time we put it on the floor. That means it is disappearing. So here is my diagram. Straightforward diagram. What you see over here is the epiblast. That's the baby. We are not concerned about that today. We are talking about the hypoblast, which is moving out. When it is moving out, we call extra embryonic mesoderm. This is outside the embryo. So mesoderm has two parts. One is intraembryonic mesoderm. We call paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, and lateral mesoderm. But this is separate. This is extra embryonic mesoderm, which are mesoderms or mesoderm, which is coming from the hypoblast. You see? And it is around a space we call yolk sac. This is the primary yolk sac. Is it difficult? All that I'm saying is over the time that in the 2 weeks, we have the two layers, epiblast and the hypoblast. Epiblast story, we finished it quite a bit. Now hypoblast story is coming. What is happening with the hypoblast? Hypoblast then proliferates and going outside, you see, away from the embryo. We call extra embryonic mesoderm, which is going around the yolk sac. Now, when it is going out, there will be a cavity forming inside inside the extraembryonic mesoderm, there will be a cavity which is coming up inside the extraembryonic mesoderm. Let's see the diagram. Can you see that a cavity is coming? Extraembryonic mesoderm. So you need my diagram one more time. See the cavity now? I'll go back and forth many times. I'll do it till you understand the story. So this extraembryonic cavity we call extraembryonic coelom. The other one, remember I showed you earlier, intraembryonic coelom. So this is extraembryonic coelom. The cavity is forming inside the extraembryonic mesoderm and pushing the extraembryonic mesoderm into two parts. One is going closer to the umbilical cord, we call splanchnic mesoderm, and the other one is going away, we call somatic mesoderm. So one of the students sent me an email indicating the fact that Dr. Paul, we studied, or he studied, if I remember, he or probably he studied, that there is also a mesoderm. We are talking about splanchnic mesoderm and the somatic mesoderm in the embryo. What are those? I said it's coming up for you. And today I'm saying it, emphasizing the fact that mesoderm has two parts. One is intraembryonic. We talked about that, paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, lateral. And this mesoderm is also coming from the hypoblast, but it is divided into two parts because there is a cavity forming. When a cavity is forming, it pushes this side and this side. So this side will be somatic, and the one is going towards the umbilical cord, towards the embryo, we call splanchnic mesoderm. Not much importance. Not much importance for the extraembryonic mesoderm in terms of the somatic and the splanchnic. Most of the somatic mesoderm going towards the placenta, which I will discuss that next class. Let me try again. All that I said is very simple, that we are dealing with the hypoblast. Hypoblast moves away with more proliferation. So these are all hypoblast, but we won't call it anymore hypoblast. We call extraembryonic mesoderm. When it is going over here, you can see that it is going around the yolk sac. This yolk sac now will be compressed, will be smaller. See, it is going over there. See, the yolk sac is compressed. One is over here and one is over here. The first yolk sac is called the primary yolk sac. This is the secondary yolk sac, or the smaller yolk sac, which will stay there for a longer period of time. Why the yolk sac is smaller at that time? Because the cardiovascular system is coming up. The embryo doesn't need any more nutrition from outside. The embryo can generate own blood cells and everything. So yolk sac, we don't need too much. We need a little bit. And that is by this diagram showing you that primary yolk sac and secondary yolk sac, which is smaller in size. Let's go back again. So this is the starting point for you today to indicate the fact that extraembryonic mesoderm is forming around the yolk sac, which will be compressed to form two. If you have a tube, compressed, one will be up, one will be down. The down one is called the secondary yolk sac. The upper one is the primary yolk sac. Sorry, the secondary yolk sac. The lower one is the primary yolk sac. The upper one is the secondary yolk sac, which stays there for some time. And therefore, I have this diagram for you. This is the one. See the yolk sac, secondary yolk sac is smaller, the primary yolk sac is there. Because you have this coelom is forming within the extraembryonic mesoderm. This type of mesoderm we call the splanchnic mesoderm. This type of mesoderm we call the somatic mesoderm. And in between you have an extraembryonic coelom space. Now, why do we need this space? We need a space because embryo is now growing And on the top of the embryo, the amniotic cavity is increasing in size. This amniotic cavity must fit within or around the embryo. So we have to create a space. This is creating a space, and very soon you will see that amniotic cavity will be merging with the extraembryonic coelom. Why the amniotic cavity will be increased? Because amniotic cavity is a protective mechanism for the embryo. It increases because by that time, the kidney system and everything is functioning. The baby starts secreting or excreting some urine. That urine goes inside the amniotic cavity, and the baby swallows that urine. It's a sterile urine. And then the urine again comes out, and therefore it increases the size of the amniotic cavity. So increasing the size of the amniotic cavity. So remember this fact, the yolk sac will be smaller, amniotic cavity will be very big. And at birth of almost like a liter, 1 liter of amniotic cavity is present in a pregnant lady. Almost a liter, 1 liter. And that's what we call when it is burst, the whole water comes down and then the contraction starts. So the amniotic cavity is very important for you to remember the fact that it is increasing in size and the yolk sac is decreasing in size. I'll go through that again and again. Just follow that, I'll come back again. So what I'm saying is this part is increasing in size and it will join with this side, which we call extraembryonic coelom. This is amniotic cavity, this is extraembryonic coelom. So if I go further, this is from your book. This is the extraembryonic coelom, this is the amniotic cavity will be joined together. Look at this. This is the extraembryonic coelom. Amniotic cavity is over here. And this is the amniotic cavity. Extraembryonic is merging together. You can see there's merging together, and then it joined together. So what you see right now here is the amniotic cavity filled up with fluid. This fluid is merging with the extraembryonic coelom. I'll go back one by one again. If you understand this story, then that's the concept is all about. So let's start again. What I said over here, you don't see the cell, which is called the hypoblast. At this stage, we call extraembryonic tissue or mesoderm, extraembryonic mesoderm. This mesoderm is going around the amniotic sac. Obviously, this amniotic sac was there to start with. It was feeding the cells. So we needed the amniotic sac for the nutrition. Then there will be a space will be created inside the extraembryonic mesoderm. We call extraembryonic coelom. Let's do that. The space is creating inside the extraembryonic mesoderm. We call it extraembryonic coelom. The purpose of that is to push everything and make a little space so that the amniotic cavity can merge with that. Here is the amniotic cavity, which will be increasing in size and will merge with the extraembryonic coelom. So let's see that. Now you can see the extraembryonic coelom is quite a big and it is pushing or compressing the yolk sac into two parts, the primary yolk sac, secondary yolk sac. Yolk sac is decreasing, the amniotic cavity is increasing. Why? Because by the time the little baby will start excreting urine. And that's exactly, you can see the amniotic cavity is increasing, yolk sac is decreasing. Amniotic cavity is increasing, yolk sac is decreasing. Yolk sac is already divided into two parts. One is called the primary yolk sac, other one is secondary yolk sac. How did it happen? Because of the extraembryonic coelom. If I ask in the exam why the yolk sac was divided into two, because of the pressure from the extraembryonic coelom, which compresses that. And therefore, this space which was already there is divided into two parts. Why do we need the extraembryonic coelom? We need it because to get a space in order to accommodate increased volume of the yolk sac. And that's what it is. You can see, this is from your book. This is the extraembryonic coelom. This is the amniotic cavity. This is the yolk sac, the primary one. And this is the secondary yolk sac. It's decreasing in size. This will be increasing. And look at the amniotic cavity is increasing. This is the amniotic cavity. This is the amniotic cavity is increasing. This is the amniotic cavity is increasing quite a bit. Amniotic cavity has increased quite a bit and merged with the extraembryonic coelom. And then it goes into the endometrium. So the whole endometrium is filled up with the water now. And that is the purpose, that why amniotic cavity will be increased is a protective for the baby. It's giving you protection. So the early part of the embryogenesis is very problematic. Number one, 3rd week to 8 weeks, we call critical period, because if the mother is exposed to some teratogens, then the organogenesis could be hampered. I told you last time. It's called the critical period. Why critical period? Because of the organogenesis. All the organs are forming because from the 3rd week to 8 weeks. 3rd week to 8 weeks also problematic because amniotic fluid is very little. Now it is increasing, protected. And the 3rd part is also important. There was no placenta. It is not protective at all. It takes 8 weeks to develop the placenta. If you see that placenta is coming very little over here. Can you see the placenta now? It's growing very well. So I have another diagram. This is the area the placenta will be forming, and you can follow that the placenta is forming. You can see this placenta is protected. We'll do the next week when we talk about the placental story in detail. So it should be absolutely clear for the student that the placenta is a protective part for the baby, and it takes time. It takes almost 8 weeks. So if mother is exposed to some teratogens like some drug or the radiation or some viruses, then the baby will be exposed to those kind of things right away and can affect the organ. The organ should be produced but will be defective. Chances of defective organogenesis is quite high between the 3rd week to 8 weeks. That's what we call is a critical period. That's what we call is a critical period. Critical period means that the embryo should be protective at that time. If it is not, then can lead to some defect. I showed you only one, the limb defects. Remember thalidomide poisoning. There are many stories over there. Rubella virus is also affected. Some X-rays could be problematic, or some medicines like antibiotic, etc. So now let's go back again. And now I'm going to read it step by step. This picture should be okay to say yes to me that you understand. Yes? And again, those who still are sleeping can just wake up and say yes to me, because this is hypoblast, which is increasing in size and turn into what we call as the extraembryonic mesoderm. Extra, outside the embryo, extraembryonic mesoderm. And then it is around the yolk sac, and there will be a cavity will be formed inside the extraembryonic coelom, and that is the, let's read it. What is extraembryonic mesoderm? The extraembryonic mesoderm is human embryo is believed to form from the hypoblast. The extraembryonic mesoderm fills the space between the trophoblast and the amnion and the chorion. After the primary yolk sac, it's all detailing is there, but basically we are talking about the same thing and changing the extraembryonic mesoderm into 2 parts, somatic and this splanchnic. That's what it is. So when this extraembryonic coelom is increasing in size, some mesoderm will be going towards this side, some mesoderm will be going this direction. This direction is somatic, this direction is splanchnic. Remember the fact this is not the intraembryonic coelom, this is the yolk sac. This one is the yolk sac. In order to understand this is extraembryonic coelom. Okay, this is the primary yolk sac, this is the secondary yolk sac. So my diagram actually tells you 1000 watts over here. It's very clear that you have this mesoderm which is going towards the embryo, or this umbilical cord we call splanchnic mesoderm. This is the external mesoderm, and the mesoderm which is going towards the placenta, we call it is a somatic mesoderm. But it has no value. For you to remember, only extramembryonic mesoderm is good enough. But for the other one, intraembryonic mesoderm is more important for you. Paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, somatic mesoderm. That has a value. Over here, the value is 0. So just remember extramembryonic mesoderm into two parts. One goes this way, one goes that way. Why it is going? Because there is a coelom is formed. Why the coelom is forming? To accommodate the increasing size of the amniotic fluid. Why the amniotic fluid is increasing? Because the baby, by that time, the kidney is formed and the baby started urination. That goes to over there, and the baby swallowing that. And it is very important baby should swallow the urine because it opens up many things, including the lung. Lung opens up. Lung is a solid structure, it slowly open up to form. We'll teach you, we'll come to know more when we do the respiratory system. So amniotic fluid is very important for the baby, not only that organogenesis, but also for the protective mechanism. It also some nutritional value, not from the urine I'm talking about, but there is something which is diffusing out from the blood vessels, which comes to the amniotic fluid. We'll talk about that next time. But this is increasing, then they merge together, and that's what, this is from your book, this should be increasing, this is increasing, extraembryonic coelom, merge together, and here is merging almost. This is the amniotic cavity, this is the extraembryonic mesoderm, this is the secondary yolk sac. Make no mistake about this diagram. There is the placenta, future placenta is forming. We'll come to know what is the placenta next week, not now. We say that there is something which is protecting the baby. It takes almost 8 weeks to develop that. And it comes from the epiblast, it comes from the trophoblast. Trophoblast cells plus the extraembryonic mesoderm. We'll learn in detail later. But this diagram is very simple. This is the uterus. You can see the uterus has a space. We call it endometrial space or the uterine space. And this space is occupied by the extraembryonic coelom. And then it will be merging with the amniotic cavity. So that's what it is showing over here. This is the uterine space, and this is the amniotic space, and this is the extraembryonic coelom. This blue color will merge with the red color. Watch that. The blue color will merge with the red color. The red color is the extraembryonic coelom. You are okay? Merging, and then it is expanding, and now the whole uterine space is occupied by the fluid. This is the story. Very simple. I'll start this thing next week by saying it is formed by extraembryonic mesoderm and the 2 layers of trophoblast that surround the embryo and other membrane. So I'll be starting the placenta by saying that chorion is the starting point. Chorion is the starting point. Keep it for next week, not for today. Because see, the next one is the placenta. Okay, so up to this, I'm not going to ask chorion, but you should know by now because you have done the VIC2, etc. What is the chorion? It is formed by the extraembryonic mesoderm. If I say now everybody is clear, what is the extraembryonic mesoderm? Coming from the hypoplast. 2 layers of trophoblast, you know it already. Together we call chorion. Why it is important? It's a part of the placenta. We'll learn that later, not today. So I go back again where I started. So it should be absolutely clear for you. I started with this slide. I have 5 minutes. So I'm going, so that you know, you don't have to go back and study again before the exam. You are all set. If you remember the story, then it's okay. If you're memorizing it, it will be difficult for you. I said that in a 2 concepts I want to give. beyond extraembryonic membrane, extraembryonic mesoderm. One is folding up the embryo, one is the expected date of delivery, EDD. Then I said that this part, you know it already over the time. Over the last 1 month, I have been emphasizing that it's folding, it's forming the neural tube, which is responsible for the spinal cord and the brain. There are neural crest cells. Many cells are coming from the neural crest, very important neural crest cells, Schwann cells, ganglionic cells. These are very important for an organ to be more functional. Then the rest is forming the skin. You see the layer is forming the skin. Then is the mesoderm is forming with the notochord we call paraxial mesoderm, intermediate mesoderm, responsible for the kidney and the urogenital system. Testes, ovary, all come from the intermediate mesoderm. Then the lateral mesoderm is divided into two parts. Splanchnic, this is the splanchnic, this is the somatic mesoderm. Then the whole thing will start folding. The whole thing starts folding. This is the last part is the endoderm, and therefore it forms like this. This is how we look like. All of us will look like this. Now, this is the concept. This is the starting point of your concept. If you have a problem, then you should not go further down. You have to stop over there till you understand this thing. This is not a rocket science, I said. Only thing I added over here, that by folding, you create a coelom. You create a cavity. This cavity is called intraembryonic coelom, not extraembryonic. This is the intraembryonic, inside the embryo. This is inside the, this is the whole thing is a baby. But outside is the, in the neural tube is there. Outside means this dorsal surface. Then you have the mesoderm, then you have the endoderm. And if you think about the stomach, this is the epithelium of the stomach. It's like a tube, intestine, or like a tube. And it happened because of the folding. Then surrounds that tube, we should have also the smooth muscle, and that smooth muscle is coming from the splanchnic mesoderm. And because of that, we don't get a sensation, which is good. You don't get sensation. So you have taken the chicken 1 hour back, you don't know where it is gone. It's somewhere in your tummy, but you don't coming down, no, you don't get any sensation, which is good. And the coelom is necessary because sometimes this can expand a bit. We need it. Somebody has a constipation. You know, nothing is coming out. You need a little space to expand the whole system. So you need a coelom. That's called intraembryonic coelom. Is that clear now? And outside is the somatic. So we have the anterior abdominal wall, which is the somatic part. So that's the first concept I wanted to give. Then I talk to you expected date of delivery. Remember the fact each and every sentence I'm talking, there is a question in your midterm. And the midterm is based on the concept. And the concept you cannot memorize. Dr. Paul's research session is full of concept, one after another. So expected date of delivery, very simple. Last menstrual date, bleeding, add 9 months and 7 days. Okay, that's the expected date. Plus minus, like usually the labor starts around that time. Usually 99.9% cases labor starts 9 months and 7 days from the last menstrual period. Last menstrual is the first day of the last menstrual period. So you have now extraembryonic tissue. I told you very simple. I say that it comes from the hypoblast. So this is the hypoblast. So I gave you a diagram which you know already, that trophoblast is over here, and trophoblast has two parts, cytotrophoblast, sensory trophoblast. Then I gave you a story about the sensory trophoblast is responsible for the formation of the HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. And the whole trophoblast is, the purpose is to anchor it. It should not fall down. And wherever it is anchoring it, there will be a placenta. Try to understand what is anchoring. And the God has made so beautifully that when it anchors, the cells try to go to the artery. Which artery? Uterine artery. So that mother will send some oxygen and the nutrition to the artery, and then slowly it will come to the trophoblast layer and to the baby. That will be the story next time. So when it is putting the arm up, actually that baby is trying to go close to the mother. What is mother over here? Mother's uterine artery is very vital. That sends oxygen and the nutrition. The baby will survive. So when it does like this, going to mother means going to the artery. That is the story next time. But for the time being, you understand this. Then I told you if there is too much of HCG is a problematic. Open the book today. It is called the high density form mode. High density form mode is the everything is the sensitive trophoblast. The baby will not survive. Everything is sensitive trophoblast. Too much HCG. Too less HCG. I told you if the baby, if the zygote is not moving forward, stuck in the fallopian tube, then there won't be much of the trophoblast. The HCG level will be low, and we have a situation called the ectopic pregnancy. That's what the story is all about. Then you concentrate on this picture, and here what I have shown over here is basically extraembryonic mesoderm. Inside the extraembryonic mesoderm, there will be a cavity called extraembryonic coelom. So you need another. This is the extraembryonic coelom is coming and pushing the cells into two parts. One part is going towards this, we call the splanchnic, one is the somatic, not so important, I said, but it is actually constricting the yolk sac into two parts. One is called the primary yolk sac, secondary yolk sac. So you need another diagram like this is $1 million diagram. I have to say that because I drew it. You agree with that? Only half of the students. Okay, thank you. So what I'm saying is that the cells coming too close to this side with this splanchnic one, that's what I wrote it over here. And the other one is this somatic one, extraembryonic mesoderm somatic, but it's not important this time. But this is forming to open up a space. Why open up a space? Because amniotic cavity is increasing in size. This is increasing in size, which you will see that is increasing in size. This is the amniotic cavity, and it will merge over there. The blue line will merge over there. The red one is basically extraembryonic coelom. You need a space, you have to move. If some important people are coming, people say, so the important people can come. Amniotic cavity is very important. You should come and join with that, and that's what is joining over there. Once it is joined, then it is just going toward this space is the uterine space. So now the whole uterus is filled of the amniotic fluid. Now the baby is like this. I did not tell you more than this. I don't want you to understand more than this, less than that. Thank you very much. Okay, where is Ibrahim, please? Ibrahim, please come over here.